The sun hung low and golden over the bleachers, casting long, stretching shadows across the football field where we had spent the last 4 years of our lives. The air smelled of freshly cut grass and the looming, bittersweet scent of change. Graduation was only a month away, a ticking clock hidden behind our laughter. John slapped a heavy hand on my shoulder, nearly knocking the wind out of me. He was already wearing his varsity jacket despite the heat, looking every bit the Division I powerhouse he was destined to be. Can you believe it, Ben? 1 month. Then it's nothing but hoops and Ivy League gyms for me. Just don't forget the little people when you're on TV, I joked, adjusting my shirt. John laughed, a loud, booming sound that made a few underclassmen turn and stare. Man, I'm just glad they have a decent program. If I can't fix a play, I'll fix a bridge. Engineering is the backup plan, right? Kim was leaning against the fence, her dark hair shielding her face as she looked over a thick digital textbook on her tablet. She didn't look up, but her voice was steady and cool, possessing that stoic edge that always made her seem 5 years older than the rest of us. The Ivy League isn't all gyms and bridges, John. It's mostly sleepless nights and cutthroat curves. I'm already looking at medical residencies halfway across the country. It's a long road to being a doctor, and I'm already behind on the reading. Quiet. Boring, Sam chirped, spinning around with her phone mounted on a gimbal. She was glowing, her blonde hair catching the light perfectly, a professional even in her downtime. Guys, look at the engagement on the last reel. We're peaking right as we're leaving. Everything is finally falling into place. She paused, her bright expression softening into something more vulnerable as she looked at us. But I don't want the place we fall into to be so far apart. I looked down at my shoes. They were all soaring. John had his basketball scholarship, Kim was on the fast track to the operating room, and Sam was becoming the face of a digital generation. Then there was me, Ben, the guy staying behind to run his grandfather's old general store at the dusty edge of town. It wasn't a bad life. The wood smoke smell of the aisles and the steady hum of the freezer units were comforting, but it felt like a period at the end of a very long sentence while everyone else was starting a new chapter. We need a last hurrah, Sam said suddenly, her eyes dancing with a frantic, happy energy. A road trip, before the scouting camps, before Kim vanishes into a med school library, and before Ben becomes the king of general goods. Let's just go. An RV trip. The silence that followed was brief before I found myself speaking without thinking. We should take my grandpa's RV. John raised an eyebrow, a goofy grin spreading across his face. The one sitting behind the store? Ben, I'm pretty sure that thing is held together by structural rust and spider webs. Hey, it's functional. I protested, though I knew the engine sounded like a tractor coughing through a thunderstorm. Mostly. I'll tell you what, John said, tossing an imaginary ball into the air. I'll handle the heavy lifting and the engineering, which mostly involves me hitting the radiator until it behaves, if you can get the keys. It'll be a classic. Kim finally tucked her tablet away, a small, almost imperceptible smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth. A cramped, moving metal box with you 3 for a week? It sounds miserable. I'm in. Besides, someone needs to be there to stitch John up when he inevitably breaks the engineering he's trying to fix. Sam squealed and pulled us all into a lopsided huddle. For a moment, the fear of the mundane future faded. We weren't a doctor, a star athlete, or an influencer yet. We were just 4 kids from a small town. Next morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and the metallic tang of old oil. We gathered in the old garage behind the general store, the gravel crunching under our feet as we stood before the beast. There it was, a 1973 GMC Motorhome. It looked like a giant, weathered loaf of bread painted in faded shades of camel and avocado green. Its curved glass windshield looked like the eyes of some ancient bottom feeder, and the 6 wheels were sunk a good 2 inches into the dirt. Okay, John breathed, his voice unusually quiet as he paced the length of the rig. Ben, I knew it was old, but this thing looks like it fought in a war and lost. It's a classic, Sam countered, already snapping a photo of the rust-streaked siding. She was wearing a bright tracksuit, her energy a stark contrast to the graveyard of old lawnmowers surrounding us. Look at the silhouette. It's retro. It's vintage. It's an aesthetic. My followers are going to lose their minds when they see the before shot. Kim walked up to the side, ran a finger through the grime, and looked at the residue. The tires are dry rotted, the seals are cracked, and I can smell the mildew from here, she noted, her face a mask of clinical observation. She looked at me, her dark eyes unblinking. Ben, are you sure the brakes even exist anymore? Grandpa always said the engine was the best part. I muttered, though I was starting to second-guess myself. The body is fiberglass, so at least it won't rust through. It just needs a little love. It needs a miracle, John laughed, but he was already rolling up his sleeves, his massive forearms tensing as he grabbed a crowbar from my toolbox. Move aside, document. Let's see if the engineering works. The next few days became a blurred montage of grease, sweat, and the kind of laughter that only happens when you're overtired. John took charge of the heavy lifting. I watched him crawl underneath the chassis, his yellow jacket discarded and replaced by a stained tank top. He spent hours grunting as he wrestled with the seized calipers and the ancient suspension. Every few minutes, he'd yell for a 10mm or more WD-40, his goofy grin reappearing every time a bolt finally snapped loose. By the second day, he had the Oldsmobile V8 engine coughing and sputtering, eventually settling into a low, rhythmic growl that shook the ground. Kim, surprisingly, became our interior specialist. She didn't care about the decor, she cared about the logistics. While we were focused on the engine, she was inside with a heavy-duty vacuum and a mask, systematically purging years of dust and spiderwebs. She treated the RV like a patient in an ER. She replaced the old, cracked hoses in the kitchenette and scrubbed the tiny bathroom until the plastic gleamed. On the small table near the back, she taped down a precise map of our route, marking every hospital and rest stop with small, neat circles. Sam was the soul of the project. She wasn't afraid to get dirty, though she did it with flair. She spent an entire afternoon on a ladder, buffing the oxidation off the fiberglass until the avocado green paint regained a bit of its 70s shine. Inside, she draped warm LED string lights along the ceiling and threw colorful, plush pillows onto the worn benches. She even painted a small, tiny sun on the doorframe. "It needs to feel like home," she whispered to me as she tucked a Polaroid of us as kids into the corner of the dashboard. As for me, I was the glue. I spent my time between the aisles of the store and the back of the RV, bringing out old surplus parts Grandpa had hoarded for years. I fixed the rattling cabinets with wood glue and replaced the flickering bulbs with warm yellow ones. I felt like I was waking up a sleeping giant. On the final evening, we sat on the roof of the GMC, our legs dangling over the side as the sun dipped behind the pines. The interior was glowing with Sam's lights, the engine was humming thanks to John's persistence, and the whole place smelled of Kim's cleaning supplies and old dreams. "Tomorrow," Sam said, leaning her head on Kim's shoulder. "Tomorrow," I agreed. The old store was at my back, silent and steady, but for the first time in years, I wasn't looking at the front door. I was looking at the road. I turned the heavy iron key in the lock, the click echoing through the empty aisles of the general store. I stood there for a long moment, my hand lingering on the cold metal handle. Through the dust-streaked window, the GMC sat in the moonlight, its silhouette smoothed out by the darkness, looking almost like the proud machine it had been in 1973. I shook the thoughts loose. There was no point in overthinking the gap between us. John, Kim, and Sam were headed for the horizon, and I was staying here to keep the lights on for Grandpa Max and Grandma. They were the ones who had raised me, the ones who had kept me grounded when the world felt too big. Taking over the store wasn't a tragedy. It was my way of showing them gratitude. They would not have protested if I had wanted to leave, but deep down, I knew I wanted this mundane, calm life. So, why do I feel such unrest? I walked over to the humming reach-in freezer, the frost biting at my fingertips as I grabbed a thick pack of frozen steaks, the good cuts Grandpa usually saved for holidays. I tossed a pack of emergency flares into my bag for good measure, the red plastic cylinders feeling solid and reassuring. Better to have them and not need them. The next morning, the sun broke over the trees with a clarity that felt like a challenge. I was the first one out there, tossing my gear into the back of the RV. Soon, the others arrived, trailing the scent of morning coffee and untapped adrenaline. John showed up first, a massive duffel bag slung over his shoulder that looked like it contained his entire life. Aside from enough protein powder to fuel a small village, he had brought a heavy-duty toolbox and a pristine basketball. "If we find a hoop in the middle of the woods, I'm ready," he grinned, tossing his bag into the RV with a thud that made the suspension groan. Kim arrived with a compact, military-grade rucksack. She didn't have much, but everything was tucked away with surgical precision. I saw her slide a small, incredibly sharp paring knife into a leather sheath in the kitchen drawer. "For the steaks," she said simply, her dark eyes scanning the interior to make sure everything was in its place. Sam was the last to appear, looking like a whirlwind of pastel colors and camera gear. She had 3 different tripods, a ring light that looked like a halo, and a pink canister of pepper spray clipped to her belt. "For bears," she chirped, though she looked more worried about her cell service than any predator. The engine roaring to life with a deep, guttural growl that felt like a lion waking up from a long nap. "All right," I said, gripping the massive steering wheel. "The Blackwood National Forest is only 2 hours north. It's got established campsites, running water." "Absolutely not," Sam interrupted, leaning over the engine cover with her phone already recording. "Blackwood is overvisited. That's code for boring, Ben. Every influencer with a van has a picture there. We need something legendary." "We just need to not break down," Kim countered, leaning against the dinette. "The Pine Barrens are closer and safer." "No." Sam's eyes lit up with that specific, insistent energy she got when she was on to something big. "I found this trail on an old hiker's forum. It's an abandoned road inside the national park, completely isolated. The government supposedly closed it off years ago, but the road is still wide enough for an RV. It's a secret, guys. A total dead zone for the public. Closed off usually means dangerous, Sam," I said, feeling a prickle of hesitation. "It means untouched," she corrected, her voice soft but firm. "One last adventure where nobody can find us. Just the 4 of us and the trees. Come on, Ben, for the king of general goods." John let out a low whistle. "A secret road? Sounds like a movie. I'm down. If we get stuck, I'll just carry the RV out." Kim looked at the map, then back at Sam's pleading face. She sighed, a short, sharp sound. "Fine. If we're going to do this, let's do it right. But if we run out of gas on a ghost road, I'm eating John first." I looked at them, my best friends, the people who knew my silence better than anyone. I shifted the heavy gear lever into drive. The transmission clunked into place, and we rolled out of the gravel lot, leaving the store behind. "To the secret road," I muttered. I didn't see the way Sam's thumb hovered over a pre-written caption on her screen, or the way she glanced at her signal bar with a hungry sort of desperation. I just focused on the road ahead. The drive had been a grueling 8-hour marathon of winding asphalt and thinning tree leads. By the time we found the turnoff, the sun was beginning to bruise the sky with deep purples and oranges. The secret road was so tucked away behind a curtain of overgrown hemlocks that we almost missed it entirely. When a small, ramshackle hut with a single, rusted gas pump emerged from the shadows 20 minutes later, the air in the RV shifted. Sam's face fell, her eyes dimming as she lowered her camera. "Great," she muttered, "so much for undiscovered. It's probably a tourist trap." "Actually, it's perfect," I said, steering the heavy GMC toward the cracked concrete apron. "We're low on fuel, and I'd feel better with a few more supplies if we're going off-grid." I stepped out, the silence of the woods hitting me like a physical weight. There was something wrong. The air felt thick, stagnant, like it hadn't moved in decades. On the GPS, the blue dot of our RV sat on a blank gray void. The road simply ended miles back, and there was no record of a structure here. I started the pump, the ancient machine groaning and clanking as it struggled to pull fuel from the earth. Inside, the shop was a dim cavern of dust and expired canned goods. Sam had recovered her spirits enough to film the wood-paneled walls, her gimbal smoothing out the jittery motion as she narrated a story about finding hidden gems in the wild. John was poking at a display of sun-bleached chips, his massive frame making the narrow aisles feel even smaller. "Look at this, Ben," John teased, pointing a thick finger at a shelf of rusted kerosene lamps. It's your general goods brethren. Maybe you can trade some tips on how to sell pickled eggs." I gave him a flat, tired look. "Hilarious, John. Get the water jugs." My attention shifted to the man behind the counter. He was a ruin of a human being, maybe 70 years old, sitting in a creaky wooden chair that seemed to be holding him together. One of his eyes was a milky, sightless marble, and when he opened his mouth, his few remaining teeth were the color of old parchment. Propped against the counter was a double-barreled shotgun, its stock worn smooth from years of handling. "Where you headed?" he rasped, his voice sounding like dry leaves skittering over pavement. "Road 234, Sam chirped, leaning over the counter with a smile that usually won over everyone. The old man's good. I went wide for a split second, a flash of genuine, cold, sharp recognition, before it hooded over again. He spat into a brass bucket by his feet. "Youngsters," he murmured. "Shouldn't go there. Road's closed. Big logs blocking the way. That heavy box of yours won't make it a mile before the axles snap." The mood in the room plummeted. I looked at Sam, ready to suggest we pivot to the national forest. "We still have time to head back to Blackwood, Sam. No point in ruining the RV on the first night." Sam's jaw set in that stubborn, princess-like pout that usually meant she wasn't budging. "We've come 8 hours, Ben. We aren't turning back because of some fallen trees." "She's right," John added, flexing his arms until his sleeves strained. "I didn't bring these muscles just to sit in a campsite with RV hookups. I can move any log that gets in our way. Let's just see how far we get." I sighed, the weight of the store, the trip, and my friends' expectations pressing down on me. "Fine, but the second we hit a blockage we can't clear, we're turning around. No arguments." Everyone started filing out, John lugging the water and Sam already checking her footage. I was the last one at the counter. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a handful of bills, the change from the fuel and supplies, and pushed them toward the old man as a tip. "Keep it," I said quietly. The old man didn't look at the money. He leaned forward, the smell of tobacco and old earth wafting off him. "I know you young kids won't listen," he whispered, his one good eye locking onto mine with an intensity that made the hair on my arms stand up. "You don't believe a word an old man says. But you be careful of those woods, boy. There should be no humans left in there. No living souls." He paused, his gaze traveling past me to the others laughing by the RV, then snapped back to me. "But you are different from them. Keep them safe, and be careful." A shiver raced down my spine, cold and jagged. It wasn't just what he said, it was the way he said, "but you," like he was seeing a mark on me that I couldn't see myself. I didn't say another word. I grabbed my bag, muttered a quick thanks, and practically bolted for the door. As I climbed back into the driver's seat, the RV felt less like a sanctuary and more like a cage. I looked into the rearview mirror as we pulled away, but the old man was gone from the window, leaving only the dark, empty husk of the shop behind us. The heavy, rusted iron gates groaned in protest, a high-pitched metallic shriek that echoed through the silent trees as John heaved them aside. He had jumped out the second we hit the perimeter, tossing the closed signs into the weeds with a confident smirk. As he climbed back in, he purposely shifted his weight, making the entire RV rock on its suspension. "Solid as a rock," he shouted, slapping the dashboard. "See, Ben? These muscles were meant to move mountains, bro." I nodded my head ironically as I clicked the headlight switch. For a second, nothing happened. Then the twin yellow beams flickered to life, cutting 2 weak, amber tunnels into the encroaching gloom. The forest here was different. The trees grew tall and spindly, their branches weaving together overhead like skeletal fingers, blocking out whatever remained of the twilight. Beyond the reach of our lights, the darkness was absolute, an endless, ink-black void that seemed to swallow the very sound of our engine. "Actually," Sam said, leaning forward from the passenger seat and peering into the gloom, "the lighting is kind of perfect. It's moody, cinematic. Your grandpa really knew how to pick a vehicle, Ben. I can't believe this rust bucket is actually purring. She's a GMC, Sam. They don't make M like this anymore," I muttered, though I kept my eyes glued to the narrow strip of cracked pavement ahead. The road was barely wider than the motorhome, and the overgrown brush scraped against the sides like fingernails on a chalkboard. From the small kitchenette, the smell of fresh bread and roasted turkey wafted forward. Kim appeared at my shoulder, sliding a neatly wrapped sandwich onto the console next to me. She had already handed ones out to John and Sam, her movements methodical and quiet. "My mom made these," Kim said, her voice a grounding force against the eerie atmosphere outside. "Eat. You've been driving for hours, and I don't want you fainting at the wheel while we're in the middle of nowhere." I took a bite, the familiar, salty taste of the sandwich settling my nerves. The interior of the RV felt like a warm, glowing bubble of safety. With Sam's fairy lights twinkling along the ceiling and the steady hum of the V8 beneath my feet, the old man's warnings at the gas station felt like a fever dream. We were four friends on the adventure of a lifetime, tucked away in a world that didn't know we existed. John was already halfway through his food, regaling Sam with stories of the engineering miracles he'd performed on the radiator, while Sam laughed, her eyes bright with the thrill of the secret location. For a moment, the mundane future of the general store felt a million miles away. This was the vibe we had talked about in the hallways of high school for years. The four of us, the open road, and the feeling that we were finally the main characters in our own story. The pavement beneath us finally surrendered to the forest. We had pushed 4, maybe 5 miles into the gut of the woods when the headlights hit it. A massive, ancient trunk, split down the center like a lightning-struck bone, its roots coiled around the asphalt like a ribcage. It was a jagged wall of rotting timber, half the height of the GMC. "End of the line?" Kim asked, her voice tight. She stood between the two front seats, her hand gripping the headrest so hard her knuckles were white. "Ben, that thing is heavy. If the chain snaps, it's coming through the windshield." "End of the line? Are you kidding?" John was already out the door, the cool, damp air rushing into the warm cabin. He grabbed the heavy towing chain from the rear storage, his boots splashing into a shallow, murky puddle. "This is just a speed bump. Ben, back her up and get ready to pull. Sam, get the angle. This is going to look epic." Sam didn't need to be told twice. She was out there with her gimbal, the small red light of her camera glowing like a predatory eye in the dark. "Do it, Ben. This is the obstacle beat. The fans will love the grit." I shifted into reverse, the transmission clunking with a heavy, metallic thud that felt like the RV was protesting. John looped the chain around the heart of the log and the GMC's rear hitch, giving me a thumbs up that was more bravado than certainty. I gripped the wheel, my palms sweating. I floored it. The engine screamed. A thick, acrid cloud of black smoke billowed from the exhaust, obscuring the view in the rearview mirror. The tires spun, spitting gravel and ancient mulch as the old machine was acting like an old man that was trying to feel his youth once more, shuddering the body of the RV as it slowly pulled the log behind. And with a soul-wrenching groan of wood against metal, the trunk lurched. It rolled heavily to the side, crashing into the underbrush with a sound like a distant gunshot. "Yeah, that's how we do it," John roared, throwing his arms up in the air. But as the smoke cleared and the RV settled back into its idle, I looked at what lay ahead. The road didn't look like a road anymore. It looked like the forest was trying to swallow it whole. The asphalt was a mosaic of shattered gray plates, held together by thick, pulsing roots that seemed almost too green, too vibrant for the dying light. And then there was the haze. A faint, shimmering green mist hung in the air, swirling around the boles of the trees like a living thing. It wasn't fog. It was heavier, filled with tiny, suspended particles that caught the yellow glow of our headlights and turned them into sickly, jaundiced beams. "Look at the atmosphere," Sam whispered, her voice filled with awe as she climbed back inside, her camera still rolling. "It's like a fairy tale. Or a dream. This lighting is insane, Ben. It's bioluminescence, maybe? Or some kind of heavy pollen." Kim mused, though she stayed close to the center of the cabin, away from the windows. Her clinical tone was back, but there was a tremor in it. "It's beautiful in a weird way. Unnatural, but beautiful." I didn't think it was beautiful. To me, it looked like a lung infection. The way the green particles settled on the glass, leaving a faint, oily residue, made Miskin crawl. The silence outside was too heavy. No crickets, no owls, just the struggling roar of our V8 engine. "All right, adventure seekers," John said, slapping me on the back as he climbed into the passenger seat, smelling of sweat and iron. "The path is clear. Let's see what else this road is hiding." I looked at the three of them, Sam's excitement, John's pride, Kim's uneasy curiosity. I was the only one looking back at the dark hole we had just squeezed through. I took a deep breath, tasted a hint of something sweet and metallic in the air, and slammed my foot onto the pedal.